Hi, how you doing? It's Mitch from Hard Intentions YouTube channel, and we got a special guest on here today that I think you'll find interesting. And having said that, let's kick it off. What want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Brandon Quaid. I'm one of the partners here at Quaid Harley Davidson in Loma Linda. And a lot of people aren't real familiar with Loma Linda, next to Redlands, but across the other side of the freeway, San Bernardino. So
All right. So basically, you're San Bernardino Harley Davidson shop.
I am. When you're going down the 10 freeway, if you're leaving SoCal heading to the desert, you look to the right. That's us. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So did you grow up there in San Bernardino area?
No, I grew up next door in Riverside. I guess I'll give you a quick background. We are talking earlier. I grew up, was born in Palm Desert, but as a little kid, I ended up in Riverside. My family, my dad and uncles were all in the car business. They're all born in Detroit, Michigan.
All right.
And back then, back in the 60s and 70s, I'm not sure now, but General Motors had their own college. It was so big. There's fraternities involved. And, so my dad, my three uncles went to General Motors fraternity and went to General Motors college. One became a factory rep for General Motors. Then, my dad was the baby he was 15 years younger than my oldest uncle that started our businesses.
Wow.
So how that went down was when I was a little kid, my uncle became a partner in a Rolls Royce store in Palm Desert, ended up buying, a little Honda store when nobody had Hondas.
Yeah.
Right. We started selling little shitbox Hondas, I guess, when they first came out. And then
it had motorcycle engine in them, I think.
No? Yeah, the 80, the Evo is probably bigger than those,
Yeah.
But try to make the long story of them, ended up in Corona Ford. Then we ended up buying multiple line car dealership in Riverside. It was called Quaid Imports. So when I was a kid, I remember growing up at the car dealership, but we had at that time Nissan, Mazda, Honda, Isuzu, Jeep, Hyundai. We had Maserati, Porsche. So at one point, my family was one of the bigger car dealers in the country in the 80s.
Right.
And so, how we'll get to how the bikes things happen. And my family was always kind of rebellious, kind of car dealers. You'd like them.
Yeah.
You'd like them a lot, well, you would still. But, all Detroit boys that grew up, came out to SoCal. They were tough men, I can give you numerous crazy stories from them. But as I was a little kid, it was funny. Growing up in Riverside, everyone kind of had a Quaid Imports car, so we had a big name and back when I was a kid. And so as a kid, the teachers were afraid. They thought I was a little mafia kid. So I kind of used it against some teachers, when I was a kid. But so anyways, through the car business, going through up and downs, and the car industry changed. They used to enjoy it, love it. Then it started turning into shit because it was like, most manufacturers, they try to get in your business a lot and tell you how to run it. And probably in 1990, because I'm going to go back through high school here, 1995, Illusion Motorcycles were building rollers. They were also building full bikes, and they were starting to ship them. A guy named Donnie Bittman, they're starting to ship them around the country and around the world. My uncle ended up leasing a bunch of our property at the car dealership to Illusion Motorcycles.
What's an Illusion motorcycle? What's that?
Just a V. Yeah, it was like a V twin. I mean, picture any old school 90s, chopper.
All right.
They were building bikes, building motors, and my uncle that brought him in was so fucking. I two uncles that were really into bike. My uncle Glenn, that's still around today. He was Joe fucking biker. You know what I mean? He long ponytail, goatee, gold chains, and that's how they ran the car business.
Yeah.
But if you would have seen my dad and uncles back in the day, all have ponytails. They all look like, I don't know, halfway pimps or whatever you want to call it, And so they weren't.
You grew up around the car business and stuff, and I mean, you just had a normal growing up? Like, were you a fuck up, or did you
You know what? kind of for me as a kid, I was a pretty good kid looking back. I mean, I had my dad, separated family. My mom moved out to Arkansas, she's still out there today.
Yeah.
I was just a really aggressive kid. I was kind of raised by, my uncles are really tough guys. I mean, street fought their whole lives, street fight, car business. I mean, you name it. We had a reputation. And so I was kind of raised by the Quaids, my dad and my two uncles at the time. There's four brothers. My other uncle was still in Michigan, but I was kind of raised by hard men. So as I was growing up, I always wanted to, I did sports, did my thing. And then, but always, when my parents split up, I always wanted to be in karate, back then it was like karate, right? So, well, my mom moved, I stayed with my dad. My dad said, hey, what do you want to do? I said, I want to do karate. So he put me in karate, and I got to with a really, really good instructor back in the day, a world-class karate instructor named Dale Campbell. Yeah. And ended up going through that. My dad joined me. My dad ended up but then I started wrestling in high school too. So I became a wrestler. Yeah. Wrestled my junior year. I got my black belt in karate. My dad got it with me the same day. It was pretty fucking cool. Yeah. And then ended up wrestling and fucked my knee up my senior year. I was the team captain for 2 years, but that kind of, I was thought it was military bound. I was kind of one of them go ahead, gun ho kids. And yeah, that's kind of was my goal. I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. I was really that fucking, mindset, but tore my ACL my senior year in wrestling. And, so I decided, well, I'm going to stick with the family. But in the meantime, I started selling cars when I wasn't supposed to at 17. And, and I started learning how to sell as I was wrestling. And, so I was always up to shit. I mean, I was my dad didn't have to worry about me. I had an older brother when we were little kids. He got in a bicycle accident, cerebral palsy, physically, got some physical disabilities, but super bright, just graduated college a couple years ago. Another brother passed away. So, I was always, my family never had to worry about me. I always had a good head on my shoulders in a sense of, I know what I'm going to work hard. I'm gonna work my fucking ass off, and try to make something of myself, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, but, as time goes on, I had, some, tragedy kind of things that started happening, some fucked up things when I was young. And so out of high school, I got, I can't say I got caught getting in trouble, but I definitely wouldn't avoid it. I just, you're young and, you start losing friends and, by deaths and things happen. And, and back then, you're familiar, Mitch, because you got the guys at the last end of the stick where you were from, right? But growing up in the Inland Empire as a young man, it was kind of a wild time in the 90s and 2000s, Yeah. And I kind of got into it with my buddies and, ran luck, but always worked. I think work was always, I remember my dad told me a long time ago as a kid, he said, hey, look, kid, he's like, you can't control what happens outside of this work, but when you can control how you approach your job every day and how you treat that's one thing you can control in life. And I took that to heart and used it because outside of work was out of control. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, that was kind of that. So
pretty good advice,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in San Diego and Lakeside, and that's, kind of rough area, and my dad, when he was around, he was a roofer, Yeah. Korean War veteran, alcoholic, Yeah. Yeah. But I wish I would have had that advice, like the work. I always wanted a job, like right before I got busted. I always wanted it. I had the work thing, but I just didn't have any work skills, I had no idea what my way in would be for work, so.
Yeah, I didn't
I turned to some illegal shit, and
I didn't ever grow up thinking, hey, I want to be in the car business and I want to be in the bike business, I think that, looking back now, I'm 43, but I took advantage of what was in front of me. Yeah. A lot of respect for my dad and uncles. They were very well respected people in the community. And I looked up to them. I thought they were like gods, in a sense. Yeah. And a lot did, you know, and they carried themselves that way. They're real stand-up guys. They taught me to be a stand-up person. They taught me to, you know, keep
Respect.
respect, keep my word. Don't take no shit, you
Yeah.
know. So, you
So
know,
your uncle got into this, so that was like a aftermarket motorcycle company kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, it was, yeah, they were building S&S motors back there. I mean, this was like my first introduction. You know, I thought growing up we'd always be in the car business, but what happened, my family just got sick and tired of it.
Right.
And we got into Illusion. So that was probably like 95 and 19, that was probably 94, 1996, right before the end of the year. My uncle, he had a fucking knack for figuring out when to buy a business. Went to Dale's in San Bernardino off of Baseline and East Street. Okay, and if you know anything about Baseline and East Street in San Bernardino, my uncle got approached by a prostitute once and asked to buy drugs twice before he stepped inside Dale's Harley Davidson. He loved that, you know, he thought it was cool. But he got held up one time out in front of our own business there, and he used to ask me, how could I took this fucking gun away, you know? The guy was good, you know, he held the gun back, and I said, you did the right thing, uncle, you gave me money, you know. Anyways, but so we ended up buying that store in 1996, and I was a junior in high school, right? So we still had the car stores, and now we own a Harley fucking Davidson store, right? I mean, it was.
So he bought a dealership.
Yeah, bought Dale's San Bernardino, and yep, right on the other side of the freeway.
All right.
You know, San Bernardino's a rough town. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I hear.
It's about as the news the news cameras don't even go over there. Let's put it that way, you know?
Yeah.
So we ended up buying a Harley store in 96, and here I am a junior. I was doing maintenance and stuff for the family. I'd go and, you know, and it's funny, I didn't wear them today, but I've got a pair of boots. It was the first thing I ever got, and I still wear them today. I've resold them like 3 times. So people look at my boots, go, fuck, what? I go, these boots are 25 years old, man, you know? So,
so he bought a Harley Davidson. Was the guy just like wanted to sell his business for whatever reason, or?
Okay, this is an interesting story. So Dale, that's had Dale's in San Bernardino, he started the Laughlin River Run.
Oh, he did.
So it started as a fishing trip years ago. So Dale, real brash. This is a good little quick story. My uncles, they love this kind of shit. But they went and sat down. They said he'll never sell to car dealers. Dale will never. My uncle said, "Yeah, all right, we'll fucking see." He sat down with them, and he had I don't know, I guess you call a broker with him. The broker said something, and Dale looked over and said, "Shut your fucking mouth. I pay you to sit here and do the numbers. I'm dealing with them." And my uncle was like, "Hell yeah," you know. And so they made a deal that pretty much at the table. And I don't remember what my uncle paid for the business, but it was pennies on the dollar compared to what it's worth now.
So at that time, Harley Davidson was it because there was a time when it was struggling, you know?
Like I said, my uncle, the timing was perfect because it was 1996, so it was all Evolution Motors, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we bought that store, I remember, you know, I'm changing a light bulb and looking out the window. There's dealing drugs right there. I mean, there was like 5 episodes of Cops at that fucking right there. There was a liquor store on the side of right next to our store. It had 2 plates of bulletproof glass, and you'd have to put your money in. If you wanted a Coke, you know, you put your dollar in, they swing that thing all the way around. And, you know, I had been shot up so many times. One of my girls, Julie, which was married to, back then, she was married to a guy named Billy Maggot. He was one of the oldest Hells Angels.
Oh, wow.
You know, and Julie worked for us for years. She ended up coming back and work for us. But Julie was a tough lady. And she used to walk customers to their cars with their 357 Magnum in her hand.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Because the street down the street in our store came alive at night. You know what I'm saying? So, so that's where we were. But my uncle always had plans to move it across the other side of the freeway to Loma Linda, a little sleepy SoCal town of Loma Linda.
Yeah.
And so we bought property over here. And so in 99, we ended up finished building our store over here in Loma Linda. Now we're at the same place.
All right. So did your uncle get into like the motorcycle thing, or was he just like into the dealership type thing, or was he type, or
he was kind of the way I see myself a little bit. Like, you gotta, you know, there's 2 types of owners. I think there's in the Harley industry now, there's ones that love what they do and they're motorcycle guys, and now there's just guys that are in it for the money, right? They're bigger corporate that bought stores. So my uncle dove in it head first, you know. And I mean, from runs to putting on events to, I mean, all of a sudden we're a fucking biker family like overnight, you know. And I was still at the car store, you know. I'm still like, where I was at the Honda showroom, right? And so he would send me over club members. Hey, you know, nephew, what's up? Hey, I got this club member coming over, you know. And he wants to buy a Honda, you know. And I'm like, fuck, okay. And here comes this fucking Hell's Angel, you know, on this Sportster with this chick on, you know, and like everybody at Honda showroom's like freaking out about this shit, you know. And I'm like, you know, I thought it was kind of cool, you know. Here I am, the nephew, and it worked out for some of them, didn't work out for others. But so my uncle was he was dealing with everybody, you know. And so, you know, I didn't know. And then they finally said, hey, let's sell these dealerships. Like, let's get in the bike business. This business is so more fun. I fucking fell in love with it. We ended up opening up. It was kind of a deal we made with Harley Davidson back then. We ended up opening Temecula Harley. So we just took our blueprints from here, moved them over there. So now my uncle, the fourth uncle that lived in Michigan, retired out of a major corporation, joined the other two brothers in business. We had 2 Harley stores at the same time for like 13 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah, when I got arrested, Temecula was just a dirt patch, you know.
When my uncle lived in Orange County. Yeah. My uncle lived in Orange County. They said, hey, Harley said, we want to open up a point in Temecula. My uncle's Temecula. He said he drove there one time. He said, I want it. It's ours.
Yeah.
But, you know, now Temecula's, you know.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
There was nothing there when I got arrested in 79. It was nothing, you know.
Right. Just drove right through it.
That's a big town. I heard it's a nice place to live now. I don't know.
Yeah.
So did you get into riding bikes and like the mechanics of it or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I remember I was 19 and I bullshitted my dad. You know, he's like, hey, you know how to ride a bike, right? I'd ridden, believe it or not, I didn't grow up on 2 wheels. You know, like a lot of people out here grew up on dirt bikes, all that shit. I didn't, but I've ridden a couple times. But I lied to my dad. He said, well, I'm gonna put this little heritage together for you, you know, and I'm gonna ride I don't know if he had an Ultra, or I can't remember back then, but yeah, we fucking got on the bikes. I just totally bullshit him. I knew how to ride a motorcycle, and we got on that fucking bike and rode to Temecula. You know, I think everybody remembers their first motorcycle ride, right, Mitch?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
You know, I was going down the freeway. I remember fucking doing probably like 55, 60 and a big rig blow by me. I thought, holy shit, man, this is real, you know?
Yeah, it is real, you know?
Yeah.
We moved out to Arizona. So I like yesterday, I had to ride out to Needles. You know, it's pretty hairy shit when you're up next to especially if you're splitting, you know, you're splitting lanes.
Yeah. I remember coming back from the Laughlin River run. Imagine this, Mitch. It's fucking 1999, and my family's like, "You got to come to Laughlin." Yeah. And this is when Laughlin was popping off. You know what I mean? This is before I was there. I was there the night of the shooting. You know, I can tell you that story. But I remember just going there at 19, 20 years old, just the biggest fucking party I'd ever seen. You know, I'm thinking, this is life. Like, you know, we were at the Riverside. We used to get these suites at the corner. There'd be the camel tent there. Everybody be fucking partying their asses off. Like,
pretty huge event.
The whole entire city and town on the other side of Bullhead. It was just everywhere you went. And you know, I'm back then. I look back. There had to be 150 clubs there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, every club in the country, I think, would go to Laughlin, and there'd be a thing, and you'd hear every year, oh, they're about to get into it. Well, and what year was it they got into it?
So now they're gonna have it in Bullhead City, Arizona bike. It's called Mayhem or something, you know. Yeah. I think it's gonna be April 26th or something.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, so you got into riding bikes, right?
Got into riding bikes, yeah.
And you're on. So did you eventually start working at the Harley dealership? They sold the car lot.
Yeah. Yeah, what had happened is we ended up, when we sold the car store, we still, I guess, wanted to do the car business. We ended up opening a used car lot next door to our Harley store.
Yeah.
And I was doing finance over there. And long story short of it, I ended up becoming the sales manager for my family here. I was 22 years old. Fuck, it was like a big deal. You know what I mean? To become a sales manager of this store, and it was popping, back 2002, 2300th anniversaries were coming out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And here I am running the show. And I remember asking my uncle, I said, hey, how do you want, I was young, but how do you want this sales floor look? He goes, I don't care if they're black, brown, white, purple. If they can sell, they can work here. Well, I fucking end up hiring all my best friends. And next thing you know, for the next 5 to 7 years, my best friends work with me, making money. We're all riding. This is back in 2002, 3, 4. I mean, there's probably about a group of about 6, 7 of us. We all, back then it was Slam Heritages, Ape Hangers, German, novelty helmets. That's how we rode. And we were the only guys really at that age. There was a few, but as a group running around Inland Empire like assholes. Like we were riding like assholes, but we stayed alive,
So when you got in the Harley business, you said when you guys bought the shop, it was Evolution Motors, right?
Yeah.
Later on, it got into twin cam. So you saw we went from Evolution to twin cam to the M8. So you seen the change in the motors and the style of bikes. So and also the people riding bikes, So what are some of the influences on the Harley Davidson? The lifestyle of guys riding bikes, the differences and things that you've noticed over the years, like the changes.
Yeah, well, my sales manager, he's a pretty motorcycle savant kind of guy, and grew up in it. And he always said something that rings a bell in my mind. He said it says Harley Davidson Motor Company. The Harley Davidson revolves their company around the motor.
Right.
It's not Harley Davidson Engineering Company, right?
Right.
So I think that twin cam changed everything for Harley for some reason, because they went from, and I got a couple FXRs. I love Evos. I mean, I think, and Thunderheader EV27 cam fucking Evo, nothing sounds like it, that low. But, you can only put so much horsepower in them. The lifters would collapse. But when the twin cam came out, it was like fuel injection was coming. It was, I had a guy here fucking put 235,000 miles on a Fat Boy, 2000 Fat Boy. And all we did was, and so all of a sudden, but when that twin cam came out, I think it was right when because 99 Dyna's got the twin cam first. We just moved in here. By 2000, everything was twin cams. And somehow I think it kind of put, hey, these things aren't leaking. They're not breaking down. And it just became like a rush, A
lot of guys like the Evolution motor. And I know, like, I had a shovel head when I was out. And so the Evolution motor, that was a big jump. But then, so a lot of guys tell me the twin cam motor is bulletproof, kind of. It's a really good.
Pretty much. Yeah. It got bulletproof all the way till probably when they started doing the 110 cubic inches.
Yeah.
Because people don't realize you can spit out any cubic inch and everybody wants the fucking biggest cubic inch, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I tell people, I call it usable power, right? Like,
right.
Back when I was in this business, this is before California tightened the clamps on us. So we had a dyno machine. I'd put CNC ported heads, push rod roller rockers in my fucking, whatever the limit was, I'd spend on my motor. Right. And we'd run the dyno machine in Arizona. That's where everybody goes in dynos most of the time now. But, we run and the goal was to get 100 horsepower, 100 torque, right? And that was always like a big deal. Your bike's getting 100. And now, there's 130s, 140s.
Yeah, my bike has 130 pounds of torque.
That's a lot of torque.
Yeah.
That's a lot of torque, that was the goal back then was, hey, can you get 100? You got guys pushing more and more. So what they started doing, so you got a twin cam 88. They pushed a 96-inch motor that lasted for about 2 years and right to a 103.
Right.
From an 88 to a 103, to me, pretty much bulletproof. If you didn't go too fucking crazy on your motor,
right,
you could ride 200,000 miles.
I had an 88. When I got out of prison, I bought 2004 Dyna Lowrider, had an 88 in it. Fuel
Yeah.
injected. First year it's fuel injected or carbureted, so it's fuel injected. And
Yeah.
so everyone, the guys I run around with, their thing is if you take an 88 and bump it up to 95, you got the best twin cam you can get.
95.
I have friends that did it. And they go, hey, 103s can't keep up with me.
Yeah.
So
That's, it's funny, Mitch, I remember building this bike, and I built $5,000 in a motor back in the day, and my buddy gets a stock 88 and fucking beat me. And I was like, fuck.
So the twin cam bike came out, and then, but like went from choppers, like when you got in this scene, I don't know if the choppers was still a big thing or not. I think
Big deal.
And then the twin cams, it seemed like that the bikes started changing.
Yeah.
Did the people buying them start changing too, or?
Yeah, I kind of jumped in where I was left with a lot of the old. So you figure, I mean, I don't know. To me, I think this is about as San Bernardino is about as old school as it gets for motorcycling.
Right.
That in Frisco for the reasons being, right. But so I was left with like old, like one of my customers today was Denver Chopper's best friend.
Yeah.
Right. And he's still one of my great customers. I mean, I'm left with old school, the fucking Dave Mackey's, the real guys that push the industry, to, yeah, like I said, like we got Loma Linda University Hospital right behind me, and I've got doctors. And so when I started, it was already changing, but I had some old school cats that were, I don't know how you want to say it, maybe on the racist kind of side of motorcycling, like, hey, they didn't want anyone else in this group, so it is what it was. It was to where we're at now. It's a different deal.
Oh, now I see all kinds of people riding bikes. I mean, because I remember like, the term, I started hearing the term in prison, rubs. Yeah, these rubs, rich urban bikers, rubs, they want to be bikers. And guy told me, when you get out, no trip, just go, you find your rub and get his bike, because they're like guys who want to be bikers, get a bike and put 5,000 miles on it, park it, and realize that they don't want to be a biker, and you could buy that bike cheap, and so, but you had rubs. And then, so what about like the Sons of Anarchy thing, when that, to me that was kind of I don't know,
well,
kind of way out there. Did that have a big influence on the bikes and the bike sales and all that?
It's funny, think about like what influences. So I think there was a couple big influences. So going backwards, when you talk about choppers, like I was next to Jesse James for 2-3 years, right by, at Laughlin. Jesse had, I think had a big influence on the industry. Like him or hate him, whatever you want to call it. Like, he was, who didn't love West Coast choppers back then, right?
Yeah.
But that kind of propelled the chopper scene and got mainstream. That was a big influence back then. Then by the time you get to Sons of Anarchy, yeah, it kind of influenced some people where,
Yeah.
there was a lot of influences that changed the game. I know all the, I don't know if you're familiar with the unknown industry guys that do all the wheelies.
I have some friends up north that do wheelies and burnouts and stunts. Yeah.
I know some of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was just a lot, I think I always kind of joke. I think everything kind of starts from SoCal, ends up to the East eventually. So yeah, influences like Jesse, some TV shows, then you've got groups of guys, social media, I think helped a lot of the industry. And now if you get to it now, right? Because back then you'd bust someone's ass, like, you ain't no biker, because it, like a real biker would see himself as a lifestyle, and this is what you live, and that created a code of ethics of, right? I mean, I appreciate that, but now, I look at the industry as to me, I could break in so many subgroups, right? You got builders,
right?
I mean, guys that just want to build, they just fucking build, ride much, they build, they ride, that's their thing, right?
Right.
You got guys that, kind of weekend warriors, but you know what? God bless them, right? Because I sell to them too, because some people are busy, right? And
sure, they got to work for a living.
right? You know, so they ride it when they can, you know. I got guys that are kind of, you know, in it for, to say I have one in the garage. I mean, you'd be surprised. I take bikes in on trade, 10 years old with 1,500 miles on them. You're like, okay, you know. And then you've got guys that won't get off their motorcycles. I got guys that legit put 40, 50,000 a year on bikes.
Yeah.
You know, so all of them, you name it.
I'm on mine any chance I get, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had to go, I said, like yesterday, I had to go to Needles to get I got a minivan. I lost the title, so I had to go to California to get the title to register it here. That was just a quick 200-mile, you know, joyride. You know?
Yeah. What's the excuse to get on the bike, right?
Yeah, and you know, I used to ride when I was a kid and all that, but when I got out parole, what really got me was some guys that I knew out of Sacramento, Placerville area. They took me for a ride to Arizona. You know, there was 8 of us, and it was we did 3,400 miles. I did on that Dyna, and that was just hooked. You know, I just the more miles, the better.
Watched a lot of your. I watched some of that. You know, I'm kind of a pseudo fan of Mitch right here. You know, I loved your podcast. I don't listen as much anymore, but I still jump on and watch. I get an episode recently I watched. You know, so I think of you, and you know, business is a funny business, right? You know, I can sum it up in so many ways, but it does a lot for people, right? Motorcycling.
Yeah.
Right. I got guys that, when I've had so many guys sit down for me, you know, I'm sitting here, Quaid. I'm like, why? Because I'm sober, and I've been sober for a year. And I said, if I can do it for a year, I'm gonna go buy a bike. I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
You know, people use it more for good in their life now than being a shithead. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know, even bike clubs get a bad rap, but even bike clubs, you know, I mean, I talk to especially the older guys. They're like, hey man, you know, I say it on my show, you know, it's not MC doesn't mean murder crew, you know, it means motorcycle club, you know.
Right.
And a lot of the guys that are in clubs, that's it, they just love their bikes. You know, I went up north a while back, and I saw a guy had a bike that somebody else used to have, and he passed away, so he took it to a funeral. But he had so what's that? He said it's a Gucci symbol on there, and and he goes, oh, he was a Gucci gangster, you know. So you know, bikes, people personalize them, people love them, people ride them, and I just dig it, you know, and it crosses all cultures too, and all races, and you know,
sure.
I tripped out when I was up north. I saw some guys, they were Sikhs, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
And they wear turbans and all that, but they're not Arabs. They don't ever cut their hair.
Right.
And so I didn't, and the guy goes, yeah, that's pretty cool. They don't have to wear a helmet. And I go, what? And so I guess they have like an exemption. They don't have to wear a helmet.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, the bike culture to me is, it's amazing. And every walk of life is involved in it, you know?
You know, here, I told this somebody the other day, and I kind of, you know, after doing this for as long as I have, I'm 43, but I'm like kind of an old dog in this game, you know? But I summed it up like this. I said, here's what I see what the bike community does. I said, I'm a SoCal kid my whole life, right? I mean, besides wrestling, I used to fight pro, Muay Thai, and I fucking did the cage. I did jujitsu, and, you know, I surf, you know, I snowboard, right? And this is what I explained to somebody. I go, look, some people go to the beach, they ain't fucking taking their shirt off. Let's be real, right? I mean, it's not everybody's going to go jump on a snowboard and go down a hill, right? I mean, there's physical attributes that takes to do things that make you a part of something.
Right.
You know, and there's just some things some people won't try because they don't blend in it. You know what I mean? I geek out on stupid shit. Like, I think the most athletic thing I watch is breakdancing. I go, I go watch these motherfuckers, you know, like these guys are doing shit like yoga on steroids. You know, I have fun at looking at stuff I'm not going to go do, and I'm not going to go hang out with that crowd. But motorcycling is unique because you're right. Anyone's pretty much welcome to this world, you know. And the other thing I think it does for people, Mitch, I think that, you know, you look at a lot of people in life, right? and they don't, the way they've been perceived or they see themselves as like an average person, right? And even their family might look at them as just average,
Yeah.
right? You need a change and people when they buy a motorcycle, it's like you could be an average person. Now you buy a Harley Davidson. Now what, motherfucker? You know what I mean? Like they go to their Thanksgiving, they go to their Christmas, and what does the whole family say? You have a Harley Davidson? And they're just like, yeah, I do. You know, and I think that's a big thing for people, right? Like, because you can be everyone else, or you can be everyone else with a Harley Davidson in your garage.
Yeah.
Or a motorcycle. You know what I'm saying?
Or you know, an Indian.
Or an Indian. Hell yeah. Yeah, that's my boys, man. I'm close to the Indian guys, man. We go at it, you know.
Yeah.
My you know what I'm saying? I think that it gives someone identity, right? Like,
yeah.
you know, besides that, you know, if you're not riding a motorcycle, you're missing out on a lot of good vibes and feelings,
A lot of
right?
good fun and camaraderie and just you know, like the first trip we took to Arizona, we went through Zion National Park. We saw the Grand Canyon. I mean, we just we went through Four Corners, went through Navajo country.
Yep.
We were riding in the snow. I mean, it was amazing. And you know, you mentioned a guy clean, gonna get a bike. Most of the guys I ride with out of California when I live over there, they're all most of them have been to prison and most of them were drug addicts and most of them now they're all clean, sober, they got businesses, they have jobs, they have families, and they ride all the time, all the time. You know, one was in a bike club for a while, kind of, and you know, now he's good standing, but he's clean and sober, and he's, you know, and so like that's our little club, but it's not a club, you know. It's just
right.
And so
little brotherhood, right?
yeah, just go to bike night and have dinner, and the old lady's like, "Hey, you gonna go to bike night?" Because she knows that's our little camaraderie time, you know. So bikes do a lot. They do a lot more positive for the community and people that have them than negative, you know.
I agree. It depends on how someone uses it, but most people use it for, I think, the good reasons, you know. And you know, I've been fortunate. I've had a great life with a lot of great friends, and some people don't, you know. And I see people buy bikes, and I'll put on some rides here at the store, and people show up solo, you know. And I'm like, hey, go, buddy up with those guys. They're good dudes, you know. And just to fucking have someone near you that has the same interest as you, you know, it's good.
Yeah, like you mentioned Jesse James, and I know that California kind of screwed him. I don't know if that's why he left California, but they sued him for building motorcycles with carburetors and not fuel injection, and I think he settled out of court for $250,000.
Well, what it is that it's CARB, California Air Resource Board.
Right.
And that's something we have to do. I don't even have a dyno machine anymore. I sold it because how the fine works is this. So if you're a Harley store and I order just order a non-compliant part, they can sue me. They can fine me $5,000 per part.
Really?
Yeah. And so what happened was back in, you know, mid 2000s, you know, you got a lot of people that were, going, well, I'm not going to fuck carb, you know, even Harley stores, fuck carb. You know what I mean? Like these guys aren't really coming around. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Big brother comes knocking, you're going to pay the piper, you know?
So that's the California Air Emissions Board, which is, you know, climate change and all that other shit. So what kind of effect has that had on the motorcycle business?
You know, as big as an impact you think it would have. I mean, trust me, I've probably lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales through the years and non-compliant parts. I mean, when I started this business, we built motors on dynos and ordered every aftermarket pipe you can order.
Yeah.
Now in California, like every bagger, road glide, street glide, you can do any slip-on pipes. You know, it just depends. You gotta know the lines now, what pipe's actually compliant, you know, what's not. So they eventually stopped chasing us dealers, which is good. And they actually went after some of the manufacturers and after like drag specialties, you know, drag specialties went to fucking town with carb, you know, and
Yeah.
Because EPA is different. EPA is actually more governed in, like, if you're going to get a ticket in California, that's actually under EPA noise,
Right.
right? There is no smog law on bikes in California, right? So they just have to sell them smog legal. So we do it the right way.
Well, I took my bike. I have to go to Las Vegas for the closest Indian dealer, and I said, yeah, I'm gonna get a pipe and an air cleaner, and we guys tune it. And he goes, no. I go, why
well,
not? And he goes, because there's a company, DynoJet or whatever.
mhm.
They tune guys' bikes and do stuff. He said, your bike is a California bike. And the bikes that we sell are California bikes because we're so close to California and we can't tune them. And he said that California sued DynoJet for tuning bikes and putting aftermarket shit on them for a lot of money and actually threatened to have them put in jail. And so now the dealership, because if you put a pipe on there, because the only thing we can do is sell you an air cleaner, like a stage 1 air cleaner, and then that comes with a tune.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I just
It's
think they're overstepping their boundaries, man, and just making it difficult,
well, honestly, what it really does is just pushes the business to the next state over, right? Because now the bikes are, like the Harleys are so efficient and powerful. I mean, these M8 motors are really, really a whole step up from even twin cam. It used to do a lot more to the motors to get more power. I mean, being real, like, you don't need more power than a 114 or 117 that they
No,
come,
no.
but when somebody wants it and they want it bad enough, oh, you're not going to do it in Vegas? I'll just keep going.
Yeah. Only thing, my bike's a 116, so that little 88 motor, if I want to pass a diesel truck, I had to kind of build up speed, and it was a bitch. But with this thing, I just twist the throttle and I'm around it. And
Yeah.
so only thing I really want to do is put a pipe on it and an air cleaner.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have Hangtown Customs build a pipe for me up in Placerville. He does
Yeah.
pipes right on the bike, so mine will be the first Indian he builds a pipe for. But
Good.
I don't want. Someone said the new motors on the Indians and Harleys, they're manufactured, as close to perfect as you can get. You don't need to mess with them.
Well, that's the thing. Even with us, carb, some weird things happened the last couple of years where a lot of the parts that other states are selling. I can get into the nuance of it, but fucking, we haven't been selling, but it hasn't stopped people from buying bikes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Still gonna buy the motors. They're still gonna buy that Road Glide, Street Glide, Lowrider, or whatever I've
Yeah.
got, and they're still gonna go out
Guys
and have.
in California, they get thunder headers and they get aftermarket pipes from other states and just I got an uncle that lives in Arizona, have them buy it, send it, they still get them. So I mean, it's stupid. And how much
Right.
pollution does a motorcycle put out anyway?
Well, I think the
Really?
other thing is really, you ride down the freeway, how many motorcycles you see, right? I mean, we're such a sliver percentage of what you call pollutants. And even then some, really taking away dyno tunes and taking away TTSs and power commanders, that made a bike run cleaner, more fuel efficient, right? I mean,
Right.
so, but
So it burns more fuel, right? It burns the actual, right?
right, so putting your bike on and tuning it actually is better, but I don't know. I think if you're California, everyone, it's like guns. Oh, you can't have a fucking, oh, right. Okay, well, I'll take off the bullet buttons or whatever people are doing, right? It's, figures a way around. And then, so I think California just says, oh, we'll just fucking blanket it. If it's not California compliant, then fuck it. Like you're going to get fined. So instead of real, real data, and you're getting it like, well, this is good. I don't even know. And carb's not a huge, thousands and thousands of people work there, right? So
I've never seen anyone get pulled over for it. Maybe bike clubs that they want to harass, but and I never got, And so
I have.
so you've been riding, and so now you still like you're into racing now, right? Still?
Yeah, I got into racing. Yeah.
And so what's that like?
Oh fuck. I mean, it's To me, you know, racing's like motorcycles on steroids. Like it's, you know, and it's such a thing for me. I've been doing it so long that, you know, it was kind of a long bag of racing. Had a big announcement at Chuckwalla, got invited, let a bunch of everybody come out here and let's check this out. While I'm out there, my buddy Tony Salima, we call him the Godfather, was on, you know, he's a stud. And he says, Quay, what are you doing here, man? I said, just, he goes, you're not going to ride a bike? I go, I didn't come out here with shit. He goes, grab my suit. You'll fit in it. Fuck it. I got on this fat bob. We call it the race bob, and it's raced out.
Yeah.
And I put around that. And man, we had drones flying, flat screen TVs. It was a big deal. A MAV TV there. But you ever get a chance to ride your bike on a track? It just changes. It's, you know, it goes fast as you can without worrying about traffic. And then I started riding because I, you know, I'm physically still in shape, you know, and so I thought, you know, fuck it, you know, I'm gonna get out on the track and ride. I got some young kids I was sponsoring, you know, some of the wheelie, you know, Ravi Savage and Clay Braun and some other guys. Like, hey, we got to get in this racing thing, because I'll jump on the bandwagon. Like, hey, this thing's cracking,
Right.
And I ended up getting on. I go, you know, I've always wanted to race an XR 1200 on the track. I get on my phone at night, Craigslist, like anyone else. I see one that raced on the AMA circuit. I bought it the next day. So I just went on the track just to go run around with these kids to see if they're fast.
Yeah.
Well, I started getting faster than them at some points. And like, you should get your license and race. Like, oh, I didn't fucking get into this race. And I got my license and raced in Utah and haven't stopped since, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I saw you at the Sonoma.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm back. So you're sponsoring guys to race and you're racing too?
Yeah. So that's what it is. I was into it heavier. Not, racing changes like the tide, you know. So all my team that I had were still all super close, but it's, you know, it's not, there's only so much Quaid can do, but I do try to sponsor when I can. You know, it's an army to get Harleys on a track, right? I mean, when I Daytona, and I towed 8 bikes to Daytona. Well, my Lucas did. Lucas, he's one of the OGs. Lucas towed him all the way to Daytona. And we got there, and I told Moto America, I said, hey, we raced the Super Hooligan race with Rolling Sands. I said, I brought 8 bikes. They go, what? I said, you ever see anybody bring 8 bikes? They go, never. Well, you ain't seen nothing yet. So but it got kind of screwed up with the weather. It was a long story, but it was in Daytona Bike Week, and I'd never been to that. So yeah, we had a good time, you know. But
you race against Rolling Sands?
No, Roland doesn't race anymore. He was announcing. I've known Roland, but I raced Super Hooligan race is kind of like the circus race. I mean, you got FTR, dual overhead cam bikes on there, KTMs, Ducatis, you know, and then they have an American air-cooled V twin part of the race.
I saw one that he built, the Indian he built for the Super Hooligan.
Yep, Rennie raced that. My guy Tony took second behind Rennie, and Lucas third behind Rennie. And Rennie's a fucking stud. He just raced last year. He was at Island of Man, did the TTS race.
Yeah.
So he's a world-class rider.
So how fast are the hooligan bikes going?
Well, you got to do it. So most tracks are about 2.5 miles. It depending on the track. So if you're going to really clock time, you got to clock your lap times. And so the difference between like a dual over, I'm out there with the fucking Tyler Harrows, like some of the best in the country. There's no reason I should be racing with those guys, right? But there's 2 parts of that Super Hooligan race. So at Laguna Seca, I was proud of myself on my XR. I got down to like a 153 lap or 154, one right there, where they're running 139s.
Wow.
Per lap, times 8 laps. And they're done like a minute and a half after before me, at least, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, it dual overhead cam, it's just that it's a sport bike. You know, they're running the same lap times on those FTRs as Super Stock 1000s. Yeah. So now this year, Harley's putting in the Pan Americas are going to be racing now. So it'll be on. So hey, you love Harley thing.
Yeah, I went to a flat track race in Sacramento, the Sacramento Mile thing. Them guys, you know, I hate, you know, Indian was just like, I think Yamaha actually had a win too last time, but Indians are killing it with the FTR motor, that flat track style bike, you know.
Yeah, they built a good bike. It kind of was in between where Victory and Indian, combined, right? And Indian bought Victory. So it's really the FTR was kind of
Oh,
Victory.
Polaris owned Victory and Indian,
Yep.
and they just
Yep.
did away with the Victory line.
Yeah. So some of the technology was more Victory and just kind of combined it, And but Harley's coming out now with that Rev. I'm on a Pan America this year, and that's fucking amazing motorcycle ride.
I heard that's a nice motor.
Oh, it's just light, fast, brakes good.
I saw a guy on Instagram. He put one in a FXR frame.
Oh yeah, I seen that guy, man. That was
Yeah.
that was I kudos to him, man, because that's a whole nother animal.
So you got any interest in getting into flat track racing?
No, I would say
Pan
like
American motor.
No, asphalt's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
I had everyone gets really fucked up in the dirt. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
You can get fucked up on the track, but like I have this system called Tech Air. It blows like an airbag. So one of my races, oh shit, I'll show you right here. Check this out. So I'm in Chuckwalla. This was my helmet, right? And that's how I landed on top of my head.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I ended up getting in a high side situation where it gets real technical when you race. Basically like this: knees down, you're running in a turn. I gassed it a little bit too much, which puts the rear. When you gas your motorcycle, your front forks expand and your rear shocks compress.
Right.
But in a full turn, when I did that, my front tire skipped. So it skipped, and when I went up, the handlebar went to my leg. It drove an indentation in my leg, like a 1/4 inch.
Wow.
And then a later blew out like a hematoma. But when I was in the air, one of those guys, Fuzzy, works for GP Suspension, said, "Hey, Brandon, I saw your feet straight in the air." And, I landed and,
yeah.
But Tech Air Blue saved my ass. I think I would have broke my shoulder.
I've seen those. The whole suit inflates.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's a trip. It's a trip. This thing measures like 30 sensors 100 times a second. And if I low side it, so I've had a couple low sides, it won't blow. But it knows if you're going over within 0.3 seconds. So wow. Track is, I've seen in my 2 years, Mitch, of racing, I've probably seen, no bullshit, probably over 100 accidents. I've only seen 2 guys go in an ambulance, only 2.
Wow.
And because most of the people get hurt when they go down, they slide into things. They slide into curbs, light pole, someone hits them.
Right.
You're dressed right and you're geared right. We're on full leathers. You have to be. I mean, fuck, I've seen guys slide fucking 100 yards.
Yeah.
They just get up and walk away.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm glad you walked away. You're still with us.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So flat track, I know there's a.
Well, maybe you could build one and sponsor one of them youngsters.
Yeah. Some
maybe metal shoes and get out there and get it.
Right.
So with California going to 2035, no new motor, no gas powered cars and all that. How's that going to affect the motorcycle industry for you?
Great question. It seems absolutely ridiculous, right? I mean, a lot of things happen in California are absolutely ridiculous, right? I mean,
yeah.
Fuck. I mean, they claim to be so green, right? My buddies are in the solar business, and now that's going to change in April. You can't, your solar, right now I have solar on my house. When I'm producing, when I'm not there, I'm getting, let's say 40 cents a watt. It's going to go to wholesale 4 cents a watt. So having a house isn't going to mean shit. They're trying to ban new pools being built in California because of water. You can't have, they're trying to you can't have, chimneys are illegal now. I mean, it doesn't quit in California. It doesn't quit in California, so.
Kind of why we left.
I got a few buddies moved to Arizona, I mean, it's kind of the California thing. We kind of deal with it, but that law in particular, I mean, more and more I've listened to podcasts and read experts. It's impossible. Let's put it this way. I got a friend that owns a scrap metal yard in Fontana. He told me this hedge fund company wants to come at least 5 acres. They want to put 5 electric charging stations for big rig trucks.
Right.
He said it takes the amount of energy to charge one fucking truck of 75 households.
Right.
One truck.
Right.
I mean, the grid, they said the grid won't even be ready by.
Yeah, and I saw a town in Canada, they had 10 trucks, and they said to charge these 10 trucks, it takes more power than the town uses. So they don't have enough power.
Well, and the other thing is everyone
You know?
thinks, a lot of people think, oh, I'm going green because I'm driving an electric vehicle. Well, if you really do the research, we all know they're polluting the fuck out of this earth, digging out that cobalt and
Yeah,
lithium.
and look at all them people mining that shit. You
Yeah.
know, they're not, they got people over there in Africa and stuff, they're mining that stuff by hand.
All that. I
And
saw that.
they're like slave labor, it's just.
Yeah. So, I mean, you think of the demands, well, I mean, I'm not going to get into it, but
Yeah,
looks
it's
pretty.
a big issue with some people. You hurt people's feelings, but they say that the pollution from start to finish of a gas car compared to electric car is like there's no comparison. Electric vehicles pollute the earth like way much because you look at the production all the way to disposing of it when you're done with it.
Well, it's not, you never know somebody smart listening to this, right? That has a say, but really, yeah, you're right. I mean, in China's running most of these, and China give a shit less about I mean, they're running the mines, they're running all the raw metals for this stuff, and you see where the push comes from. And don't get me wrong, I mean, if I'm not on the side, I pick up my trash. I don't, I surf. I'll tell you right now, people want to say, hey, we're going to put you in a box because you don't believe. No, no, no. You can't fucking surf and not be into the environment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, I surf in Huntington, right? And it's old school, right? Like you spit, you throw a piece of trash on the ground, you're going to get checked. You know what I mean? So, but we start seeing the facts. It's just nice to hear, more people out there have podcasts and channels, and they're able to. You hear real information.
Yeah. I
So,
mean,
are
I grew
we
up in San Diego, same thing, you don't throw your fucking trash in the beach.
exactly?
But I just,
So I don't know, man. By 2035, I might be living next to you.
you might, it's just, I don't know. I just think that they're taking it too far, too extreme. I don't think they have enough raw materials to even build that many cars. And then you have this, this guy, World Economic Forum. They want to do away with personal vehicles, and they have their own agenda, which is not cool in my book.
But I still believe I still believe in America, and I still believe in Americans. I'm still optimistic that hard men will prevail. Meaning, you start messing with people's livelihoods and feeding themselves and transportation, and at some point, it doesn't take a lot for people to have enough. Right now people have enough not to get involved, but
yeah.
at some point you start.
Well, my experience in prison is a perfect example. When I went to prison, you could wear Levi's and Pendletons, and I had Harley Davidson shirts, and I had a couple Frisco Chopper shirts, and you could have your own shoes. They fed you good. You could smoke cigarettes and chew Copenhagen, and they had a hobby shop where I could go do woodwork or artwork and sell it, make a little money to take care of myself, send my family. They took all that away, and they did it in increments. And so the clothes went. They said, you can keep your Pendletons, but you can't wear them outside of your cell. Well, what the fuck? I sent them home. And then, no more Levi's. You got to wear state pants. All right. Well, then they went from state pants that were similar to Levi's to state pants that were like fucking pajama bottoms. So they just took. And, in some cases, guys did some bad shit to staff over it. Like in Lancaster prison, they would put you on property control, take your TV, take everything, and they had a line on the track. You had to walk on the line going to chow, and they were just extreme. Throwing guys. They would search your cell and throw your TV down the stairs and fuck you. And so they jumped on some staff and stabbed them up. And so it's the same thing out in society. People that want to control the world, they can only go so far. And like you say, strong men, strong people are only going to put up with so much,
Well, and that's maybe the issue now. A lot of people don't see the, the strong coming up, but the world tells its tale, I mean,
Yeah.
but I always enjoy this. I enjoy listening to all your podcasts, Mitch. I like,
Thanks.
yeah, I'll give you credit where you probably don't get it, but I think a lot of people, first of all, I really got into, my buddy kind of got me into those prison podcasts. I think I first listened to 23 and 1, or is that,
Yeah.
what was it?
Yeah. I was on with him. Yeah. With Josh. Yeah.
And then then I heard you and I immediately followed you,
Yeah.
But I didn't know much about prison. You know what I mean? I had some friends did a little bit of time here and there, but it wasn't a big thing in my life. And it's almost, I think a lot of people, like with you explain it and there's a gravitation to want to know because of things you don't know, and I think the way you articulate it, but what also the way you handle, the way you talk makes people feel that that's how you're supposed to conduct yourself. I think listening to you conducted yourself in a way that you carried yourself like a man, you act like a man. I'm sure you got your shit and maybe crossed some lines like any other human being, but it's good to listen to someone like you being, well, it's even more impressive, Mitch, is how you came out. Really, you have a really good, clean way of navigating yourself in and out. I'm sure there's a process to it, but
Yeah. I mean, I went through a lot of shit, in prison, and and I took advantage of things that helped me grow as a person, and got me grounded. And so when I got out, and I had a lot of help from family, my old lady and some other people helped me out quite a bit. But the guys, my old lady trips out because the guys that taught me how to live in prison, they were all bikers,
yeah,
When I went to prison, there was a lot of guys in prison that were motorcycle guys, bikers, bike club guys, and they taught me how to live, really. And my old lady's like, you were a teenager and you grew up with a fucked up dad, stepdad, all that shit. So those guys are like your surrogate dads, And I'm like, yeah, I mean, so
I had a club member one time, and oh, we won't mention which club it's from, but it's, he was on one of the other side of the teams that always having problems with each other, but Mexican guy, I've known him for 20 years, and he told me, he said, what, Quaid, because he said my club comes to me. He's a president of one of the charters today, and he said, Quaid, he's an old side fucking Purdue guy. Hey, homie, Quaid, check it out. He goes, my club comes to me and tells me, hey, what about this? How do I handle that? All these new youngsters, right? And I always respected this, what he said. And you've heard it before, but maybe the way he said it, he said, look, Brent, I tell my club, be a man first. He's like, so how would you handle it as a man first? The patch doesn't matter. It matters when you get into politics, but however someone's treating you, how do you handle it as a man first? That's how you handle it. And I thought that was a good piece of advice, because you tell some dumb kid that's trying to even maybe fresh patch, hey, well, if someone does that, you need to go fucking punch him in his mouth, right? Like he'll do it because that's what he's told to do, but it makes, people need to think, what is it? What is it? And we've all been caught in situations in life. I've been caught in situations in life where went home and I'm like, I should have fought that motherfucker. He took away some of my pride. You know what I mean? I didn't man up, but maybe as time passes, you realize it wasn't worth it back then. I could have gotten in a lot of trouble, but
yeah,
good to think of what a man is first.
yeah, be a man.
Be
Ride
a
a
man.
motorcycle, be a man. Yeah, strong men ride motorcycles.
Sure, that's right.
Yeah.
And I've even seen, Mitch, in my world, I've seen not strong men come into the world of riding motorcycles and become stronger men because of it, right?
Yeah.
And they're not going to be you, but they're definitely not the same person. They walk in here and they'll never say it. We can see it in their face. Like they need this. Like they need something to fucking, because let's be real. I tell people, I said, the best way to live your life is be closer to death.
Well,
And,
sometimes.
and but that's when people feel most alive, right? Think about, you talk to military guys that were in the stick. They'll never forget the camaraderie they have because you required that person to stay alive, right? You were closer to dying than you were being back at home.
Yeah.
And it becomes like an addiction. Well, riding a motorcycle is not safe, right?
Yeah.
If we don't ride them because they're safe, we ride them because they make us feel a certain way, and there's a danger element to it. We feel more alive.
Dude, for me, it's therapy, And really, it's not the motorcycle that's dangerous. It's all the people in the cars around you.
For sure. For sure.
Basically. I mean,
for sure.
And, really, guys, to me, guys that die on motorcycles are usually sport bikes, the crotch rockets, guys in Harleys do get in accidents, but mostly the crotch rocket guys, because they got a bike that'll go, 180 miles an hour and they want to try and go that fast and end up dying.
Well, there's an old saying, speed kills.
Yeah.
Right?
But, motorcycle riding to me is, it's just therapy. And like you say, the guys become stronger men. Maybe they gain some confidence in their by riding and being around guys that ride and the groups of people that they associate with when they're riding, and it's just motorcycles do the stuff for you that's unexplainable. It's an unexplainable phenomena,
That one year this guy came in and he's like, let me tell you what motorcycle, and I've heard it all, I'm like, all right, what the fuck's this guy gonna tell me, But he had broke it down in a different way. He said, hey, when you get on a bike, your balance, your sense of smell, eyesight, all your senses are heightened,
right?
Which actually you into a meditative state, because you have all these senses go up. You have to go into a different state of mind when all those things are activating, which actually brings your blood pressure down. Because Harley did a study from Stanford like fucking 8-10 years ago, but it said riding a motorcycle for 30 minutes lowers your blood pressure by like 25%.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to ride more.
Yeah, in which, like, hey man, you could have a shitty day. You go ride your bike for an hour, you come back, it's not that bad.
When I lived in California, I was working in Sacramento, cleaning out homeless camps.
All that.
It was a rough day. It was hard work. I would ride to work, and sometimes it would be 40 degrees. I'd ride down the hill. It was about, 45-minute ride. At the end of the day, I was beat up, tired, dirty, and I would get on my motorcycle and ride home. And by the time I got home, I was good.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
I told somebody, I said, something about riding a motorcycle too. I don't know if it maybe have all those senses firing. I've done so much shit in my life that I don't even remember most of it, but I can remember almost every ride that was good.
Yeah.
It's like these acute memories you get, and it's something about riding a motorcycle. Like, I look at life like we're all going to be laying our deathbed one day. And what are you going to remember? And all the things I've done, I still remember riding motorcycles with my dad, my friends, and going to Reno, going to Four Corners, going to Milwaukee. I mean, it's like, and you have these memories that like in this shit you can't make up when you ride bikes. I tell people, I was like, look, they're like, oh, don't you hate when you get in like bad weather? I go, yeah, but then I think that man thing comes out. It's like, you don't have a choice on a motorcycle when shit hits the fan.
No.
You got to get, I've been stuck fucking freezing my ass off in hail and snow and rain going, I can't, your brain's telling you got to pull over and stop. You can't keep going. And you go, well, there's no point because I'm going to be stuck on the side of the road in the same conditions. And you got to get yourself through that. And when you're done, you're sitting in your hotel room, you guys drinking beers, whatever's going on after the ride. And, you're sitting there at night and you're looking at each other like, fuck yeah. Like we, like
we did that.
We did. We went through that fucking thunderstorm.
Yeah.
I remember my buddies and I, we went through a hailstorm. We were welted all day. We got to work. We came back from State Line on a fucking park all night with the sheriffs and rode straight back here through a hailstorm and had welts on our bodies all day. We thought we were the shit.
Yeah, our last Arizona ride, we went up through over from San Diego to Yuma, and it started raining, and then there were like 60-mile-an-hour winds and rain, and I was in the right-hand lane, but off towards the center, going 70 miles an hour, and then the next thing you know, I was on the shoulder of the road. I mean, it didn't lean me; it just pushed my whole bike over. I
We
was
make
like,
your ass.
"Whoa."
Yeah.
Yeah, I made my asshole fucker. Yeah. But yeah, it's, I love it. There's nothing in the world like it.
Well, hey,
Well,
good for you. Good for you.
it's been a pleasure talking to you.
You
And
too, Mitch.
hey, so any final words? You got a shirt line going too, right?
Oh yeah, I Freedom Machines. You can go on there. You know, just something that I don't have to have the man tell me what I can and can't do. That's why we started it,
Yeah.
And I'll send you some gear.
Cool. So
And
you're Freedom Machine, that's your shirt line, and you're right. It's a Quaid Harley Davidson, Loma Linda.
Yeah, Quaid, we own it. It's Freedom Machine Co. We're gonna dig into it a little harder this year, and like
Yeah,
anything,
you
you
got
know,
your full service operation. You work on bikes, maintenance bikes, sell bikes.
we do it all, man. I've had, kind of some cool shit. I'll show you something kind of cool before we go. I'm reminiscing. This is an old A like this. I was on the cover of Baggers. You know, did that for a big concert called Lost Highway. We've done it all, man. I built, had to cover builds of magazines to, everyday service. I mean, we're proud of what we do. We do it right. We do a lot of volume. Try not to be too boastful about what we do, but we're proud of it. So we're what I believe is what Harley Davidson represents. That's what my family, we still like to do that and be that way.
America.
That's right. Hey, good for you, Mitch. And it's great to see you enjoy your life and,
Thank
what
you.
you went and listen to your stories, man. They're compelling, man. I tell your stories to all kinds of people, man. So it's good. Keep sharing your way of thinking and how you did your thing, so.
Well, nice chat with you. It's a pleasure knowing you. You have a good
Yeah,
night.
you too. Yeah, and hey, any of your customers need something, let me know. And any of your people that listen to your podcast, and looking forward to hearing your shit. I love it, Mitch.
Cool. Thank you. Have a good
All right,
night.
brother. Talk
Bye.
later.
Later.